Broadcasting live from the Albay PIO News Center, providing you the most exclusive news update from all over the province. This is News at 12. In the local scene, the provincial government of Albay is giving a monthly 6,000 pesos incentive to 25 community ALS implementers to support their work with out-of-school youth. The assistance covers July to December and helps volunteers reduce expenses for transport, supplies, and instructional needs. The program strengthens the alternative learning system by helping volunteers teach more effectively in barangay learning centers. Volunteers work with ALS coordinators and mobile teachers to guide learners and sustain participation. Officials said the initiative reflects the province's commitment to community-based education and youth empowerment. In other story, the Sangguniang Panlalawigan ng Albay has backed an ordinance banning the sale, distribution, and consumption of alcohol among minors in Ginubatan. Officials raised concern over minors' increased access to liquor in public and private settings. Reports show underage drinking heightens risks to health, safety, and overall well-being of individuals. The ordinance prohibits minors from purchasing, possessing, or consuming alcohol and also penalizes adults who allow or encourage minors to drink. Establishments are barred from allowing minors to consume liquor within their premises. The measure includes penalties such as fines and the suspension or revocation of business permits for repeated violations. The Committee on Laws, Rules and Oversight, led by board member Sheena Marie Unrubia de la Cruz, recommended the endorsement. In other news, the Sangguniang Panlalawigan of Albay has approved a resolution creating a special health fund to support the full implementation of the Universal Healthcare Law. The approval followed a joint committee hearing led by 1st District's board member Marian Caroline Siga So and other committee heads. The fund will consolidate all health-related resources in the province for unified and efficient management. Officials said the measure strengthens local health system integration under the Universal Healthcare Act. In the national scene, Senate President Pro Tempore Panfilo Lacson on Wednesday urged the government to include funding in the 2026 national budget to fully operationalize the judiciary's recognized Judicial Integrity Office, calling it a key measure to fight corruption in the courts. During his interpellation of the judiciary's 2026 budget, Lacson said the Judicial Integrity Office, which is tasked to promote integrity and investigate misconduct among judges, officials, and court employees, should be put to work as soon as possible. He stressed that public awareness of corruption continues to rise and that a strong internal oversight office is timely. Lacson also noted that the proposed 250 million pesos for the Judicial Integrity Office is small compared to the large amounts lost to corruption, including alleged irregularities linked to the 2025 budget. Lacson said immediate support for the Judicial Integrity Office would reinforce accountability within the judiciary and signal a stronger commitment to addressing corruption. In other story, the organizers of the Baha sa Luneta 2.0 anti-corruption rally on November 30 have announced that the event is open to the public but will not allow supporters of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. or advocates of Vice President Sara Duterte's ascension to the presidency. The statement came from Bagong Alyansa Makabayan chairperson Teddy Casino during a press conference of the Kilusang Bayan Kontra Kurakot, which also led the initial Baha sa Luneta protest on September 21. Casino said the mobilization aims to unite citizens demanding accountability for corruption from the bottom to the top of government. Casino reiterated that only those defending Marcos or pushing for Duterte succession will be barred, stressing that all other Filipinos angered by corruption are welcome to gather at Luneta Park. Simultaneous actions are expected nationwide, with groups marching towards the venue before the main program begins at 9 a.m., addressing questions about possible disruptions. David San Juan of the Taumbayan Ayaw sa Magnanakaw at Abusado Network said individuals with contrary messages are unlikely to join. He added that marshals may escort out anyone who incites trouble or disturbs the program. The upcoming protest follows recent demonstrations, including the November 16 United People's Initiative action, where rallies called for Marcos to resign. The calls were fueled by former lawmaker Saldico's claim that Marcos and former House Speaker Martin Romualdez were behind 100 billion pesos in budget insertions for 2025, an allegation Malacanang has dismissed as hearsay. In other news, Makabayan Bloc in the House filed House Bill number 6193 on Wednesday to amend the party list law, aiming to restore representation for marginalized sectors. If passed, the bill would ban nominees who have been or are affiliated with government contractors and those related to incumbent officials up to fourth degree. It also requires party list groups to prove they truly represent their sectors in public hearings and that nominees come from these groups. Lawmakers said the party list system has been exploited over the years, allowing elites and political dynasties to claim seats meant for the underrepresented. The bill comes amid the aftermath of a multi-billion peso flood control scandal involving lawmakers, officials, and contractors. The party list system established under the 1987 Constitution intends for labor, peasants, women, youth, indigenous communities, and other marginalized groups to have a voice in Congress, with 20% of House seats reserved for them. Lawmakers warned that recent practices have allowed the rich and powerful to take over these seats, diluting representation for the marginalized. And in the news outside the country, the United Nations Climate Change Conference, COP30, has entered its second week amid growing calls to end reliance on fossil fuels, though debates remain tense. Countries dependent on oil and gas, particularly in the Middle East, argue that emissions also come from agriculture and deforestation, stressing the need for a fair transition to avoid deepening economic inequalities. Right now, Southeast Asia is facing rising temperatures at twice the global average, with coal and gas projects still planned, many near protected areas. COP30 warned about this, citing that developed countries in the global north could pressure developing countries into long-term fossil fuel deals. Resistance from oil and gas-reliant economies has raised doubts over whether fossil fuel reductions will feature in official COP30 decisions. Outside the conference, around 50,000 demonstrators marched in Belém, staging symbolic funerals for coal, oil, and gas. Protesters called for an end to fossil fuel exploration and protection of indigenous lands. Indigenous leaders emphasized the need for collective action to safeguard forests, rivers, and ecosystems. Some countries took concrete steps toward cleaner energy. Cambodia joined the fossil fuel treaty, while South Korea and Bahrain entered the Powering Past Coal Alliance, committing to phase out coal plants and accelerate renewable energy. Despite these pledges, fossil fuel exporting nations continue to resist rapid change, highlighting the challenges ahead in the global energy transition. In other story, South Korea's new ambassador to the United States, Kang Kyung-hwa, has promised close cooperation with Washington to support renewed dialogue with North Korea. In her first briefing to Korean reporters, Kang said Seoul will act as both a peace and pacemaker alongside the U.S., citing recent summits between President Lee Jae-myung and President Donald Trump as a foundation for peace and stability in the peninsula. Kang emphasized the importance of a robust, future-oriented alliance and stressed that her embassy will ensure agreements reached during the leaders' visits, including South Korea's $350 billion investment in the U.S. and support for nuclear-powered submarines are implemented smoothly. She acknowledged potential U.S. procedural hurdles, but said the leaders' fact sheet provides a clear basis to move forward. Kang also highlighted trust and cooperation between Lee and Trump as a key foundation for advancing trade and security ties. And finally, in the news outside the country, the United States has lifted tariffs on more than $1 billion worth of Philippine agricultural products, providing a significant boost to the country's farming sector. The exemption applies to key exports including coconuts, desiccated coconut, bananas, fruit juices, processed pineapples, and frozen tuna, which previously faced a 19% tariff. Philippine trade and finance officials welcomed the move, noting that it will enhance the competitiveness of local farmers and exporters in the U.S. market, support jobs in rural communities, and strengthen supply chains. The decision follows reciprocal trade negotiations between the Philippines and the United States, underscoring the growing partnership between the two countries in agriculture. The tariff removal is expected to increase both the volume and value of Philippine agri-exports to the U.S., offering a timely boost to the nation's agricultural economy and rural livelihoods. And that's all for the news at 12, November 21, 2025. We'll be back next week for more news updates. And thanks to our news writer, LJ Lurejo and Naomi Ruth Hernandez. And on the technical side, Chad Bordis. And our Provincial Information Officer, OIC Body Gonzalez. And under the supervision of our Governor, Noel Iruzal. Before I go, I would like to announce that this afternoon, we have a visitor and we'll have a very special program this afternoon at 3 o'clock or 3:30. We have a visitor, the HSP, Higit sa Pag-ibig the musical, will be here visiting us. So, hintayin niyo po yun, mamayang 3:00. My name is Greg Hallare. Thank you for subscribing.